Hey, everybody, welcome to the show today. Excited to have you here. Really excited because you'll find out as we kind of move along here that Jason Lewis is actually one of my business partners. And we didn't start that way. We were just separate investors that kind of met and things kind of happened. So today we're going to talk about a lot of amazing things. Jason is probably one of the largest wholesalers in the country, has a really amazing business. He'll be sharing some tips from that. And we'll talk about kind of the future of real estate investing, which are some of the things that we're doing together. So it's going to be an awesome show. Excited to share with you. Welcome to Real Estate Investing Secrets. We're all looking for freedom and the opportunity to live better, more fulfilling lives. But most of us were trained our entire lives to work for someone else and chase their dreams. How can we use real estate investing as a vehicle to achieve financial freedom? My life is dedicated to answering your real estate investing questions and helping you build an investing business that allows you to change your life and the world around you, and to enable you to turn your dreams of financial freedom into a reality. My name is Mike Hambright from FlipNerd.com, and your questions get answered here on the Real Estate Investing Secrets Show. Hey, Jason, welcome to the show. Hey, man, before we kind of jump in, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Don't give it all away yet, because I want to talk a little bit more about your business. And then, guys, we did not plan this. Jason and I have the same shirt on today. We have these Investor Machine fleeces here. Honestly, this is the first time I've worn long sleeves like this year. It's kind of gotten a little cool in Dallas. And so coincidentally, we're wearing the same shirt. Didn't plan it that way. And also want to tell you guys, Jason is fighting COVID right now. Really just kind of feels more like a cold. So if he sounds kind of stuffed up and coughs a little bit, that's what's going on. But he's a trooper and decided that we're going to do the show today no matter what. So
we need to get a poll going of who wore it better.
Yeah. So hey, tell us a little bit about your background and a little bit about your business, and then we'll kind of jump into more of the topics for today.
Cool. So I'll share just like for those that are newer in the space, I'll share kind of my starting out journey, and then just quickly move to today. So I have a different way. I graduated with a degree in radiation therapy in 2012. 2012, which also 2012 was like very bottom of the real estate world. So I lived in, when I started my school journey, it was like security is the name of the game. 2008, find something secure, find something safe. Didn't take into account the fact that I was going to hate it. So trying to figure out what to do. Real estate investors were pretty hard to come by back then. There wasn't like podcasts, the same amount of like I think I went to like a Rich Dad, Poor Dad class, but that was not great back then. I'm sure they've improved now, but the only thing I remember is like chanting, buy more education, buy more education.
For real?
Like, I can't believe this is real. Oh yeah, she's like, say it with me again, buy more education. About the only thing they taught us how to do is max out our credit cards to spend 50 grand on real estate investor education.
Wow, yeah.
But I was really into it. I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I wanted to get into real estate investing. I realized that radiation therapy wasn't for me. And so I took a different approach than a lot of people did, where I hit up the only guy I knew that was doing real estate for a job 3 times. He told me no all 3 times. And then on the 4th time, I said, hey, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to show up tomorrow for free, and the day after that, and the day after that. And if there comes a point in the future when I'm worth something, then you can pay me that. And he was like, well, I guess I can't say no to that. So I worked for him for free for a month. And in that month, just did everything I could to provide as much value as possible. And we went from flipping about a home a month in 2012 to 5 years later, 2017 was when I left him. We were doing 150, 200 homes a year, big commercial developments, things like that.
Yeah.
So September 2017 was when I left, and then have grown my own wholesale business since.
Yeah, started over 2017, and then just talk a little bit about what your business looks like today.
So last year,
your obviously your real estate business.
Last year we did 149 deals, just over 3 million in revenue. This year pacing to be between 3 and 4 million in revenue as well. I've got a full built out team, acquisition managers, disposition managers, lead managers, all of the above. And in that company, I spend very, very little time. Now, most of my time goes to this one, Investor Machine.
Yeah. Yeah, for those of you that don't know Jason, he's kind of came on the scene a few years ago. So 2017, and you joined Investor Fuel in 2019, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's about 2.5 years ago. So it was February of 2019. I remember because we were in Salt Lake City, which is where you're based at.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that well. So, and what did your business look like then? Obviously, it's grown quite a bit. What did it look like, in
So
2019?
I think when I joined, I just barely squeaked in the minimum platinum requirement. So I think I'd
Okay.
done like 60 deals in the
Yeah.
last year, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So pretty quickly. Not that you obviously have worked hard and you do a lot of different things, but in the time you've been in Investor Fuel, your business is at least doubled, if not more. Investor
Yeah,
Fuel, that is. Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
that's awesome. And so, I'll tell you guys a little bit about how we met. So Jason joined Investor Fuel. Oddly enough, you're the only person that I think joined Investor Fuel while we're actually at a meeting. Usually people have joined 2 or 3 weeks in advance, if not months in advance, just because, we have quarterly events and we travel and stuff like that, but we happen to be in your backyard.
John Harker, who was in the group at the time, who was one of my friends, posted saying,
Yep.
"Hey, Salt Lake City friends, I'm in Salt Lake, come down to breakfast." So I messaged him. He's like, "Oh, I'm here at Investor Fuel." I was like, "Oh, I was thinking about joining that." So
Yeah.
I got Stinson on the phone, hard sold him into letting me come, and drove down that morning.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. It's kind of funny how that worked. And, just to talk a little bit about kind of how we met and how things kind of went from there is I think at that probably the very first day, I feel like you and I sat together at dinner and talked, and we're just kind of sharing stories about our vision for certain things. And it's almost like I kind of tell people that it's like peanut butter and jelly coming together. It was just that you had some things that you were doing, I had some things that I wanted to do, and we had different skill sets. And I think the beginning of Investor Machine might have like taken place that night, like the very early stages of it, but certainly over the next couple of days, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's been pretty cool. So why don't you, I know before we kind of get off of your business, you have so much experience and so much to add value. I don't want to just kind of jump off that real fast. Let's talk a little bit about building your team. What I want to emphasize with folks here is you work out of your home. You don't have an office. You're completely virtual, even though you operate in your market, and your team is all over the place. Your team has a ton of virtual staff. Our Investor Machine team is like super virtual for our size, for sure. But talk a little about kind of how you've built your team and the right way to do it. Because I've seen, in fact, we're going to be talking about this at Investor Fuel coming up here in a couple of weeks, that one of the biggest keys is to put the right team in place, right? So that we can scale our businesses and really move back to Robert Kiyosaki, move out of that self-employed box into a true business that has systems and people and processes and can operate at least a little bit without us, right? And so maybe you can share a little bit about kind of how to build your team correctly.
Sure. And so one thing to make sure is clear, I run an entire virtual company. That said, my Utah company has probably 12 to 15 people that live in Utah.
Yeah.
But everybody works from home. And then back end support would be overseas. Same thing with Investor Machine. We have a variety of people that live stateside that run a lot of the higher level things. And then a lot of our back end support is overseas as well.
Right.
So I personally am not a big fan of having your lead manager, your cold caller, your text or whatever be from the Philippines. That's one thing that I believe heavily in is if you're going to be on the phone with someone, they should sound like a local. Now that's different for all of us, right? Sounding like a local in Texas is a little different than sounding like a local in Utah, right?
Sure, yeah.
Versus Louisiana versus New York, etc. People are already assume we're a scam, right? Like you see the real estate investor seeks trainee, 100 grand a year signs. You see the, I buy houses signs. It's all kind of like grouped together, like scam, right?
Yeah.
So you're already calling a number thinking scam, and you get somebody that sounds like they're from India, Philippines, something else. Like theory confirmed, move on. So that said, I will sometimes hire expatriates, people that are from America that live in other places. But you definitely want to sound like a local. But in terms of building, I'll just give two thoughts that I actually was sharing with Joel Jansen earlier today. So one thing from Darren Hardy, you want to build once so you never have to build again. That's always my goal. So two thoughts with that. One, whenever I'm training somebody, whether it be lead manager, whether it be acquisition manager, whether it be VA, bookkeeper, I try to train them like I'm built. So a book that influenced me significantly positively early on is The E-Myth Revisited, which is the idea is you want to build a franchise, basically. You're not looking to, oh, hey, I'm going to hire Joe. I like Joe. What are Joe's strengths? Oh, okay, let's build a role around Joe. No, that's the wrong way to do it. The way to do it is McDonald's. I have a burger flipper. I have a cashier, right? I have a lead manager. I have an acquisition manager. I have a office manager, whatever you want to call them. This is the role, and then you go fit someone for that role. And when I'm training that first person for the role, it's on video, almost entirely. Screencast-o-matic loom, whatever you want to call it. You want to make sure that all of those things are done on video. That way, if and when that person turns over, you don't have to do the same thing over again.
I think a lot of that stems from real estate investors being cheap. Like we hire somebody after we need them, right? So we're like always like, I just need to get somebody. It's almost like going, I'm guilty of this, Christmas shopping on Christmas Eve. It's like, I need to get something. Or we gotta wait. It's not very well planned out. It's just like, I need to check the box, if my wife's listening, that's not 100% true, but a little bit true. But it's like going to the grocery store. My wife doesn't. We've only done like 1,500 podcasts over the years. She's the only one she ever listened to is the one she was on.
There you go.
It is true. It's
Congrats for convincing her to get on one.
Yeah, that was a tough one. She's like, what are we doing here? What are we going to talk about? And I was like, I don't know. Let's just talk. So, another analogy is going to the grocery store when you're hungry. You end up kind of putting stuff in your cart, or people, that is, right, in this analogy, that are not the right fit, but it just 100%. At the spur of the moment, it just sounded like something I needed to do. And then the other thing is, I think, as real estate investors, inherently, we're kind of cheap. Like, we don't pay retail for anything. Why would we pay retail for a person to do something that probably won't do it as well as me? At least that's what we tell ourselves in our mind. And then that person doesn't work out, and we're shocked by the fact that we cheaped out and hired somebody too fast, right?
Right. Yep, for sure. I'm a big fan of having SOPs and training manuals. I mean, you see it pops up pretty frequently in the Investor Fuel Facebook group. Someone says, hey, I'm looking to hire a lead manager. Does anybody have any stuff? And then they get my Google Drive link folder that says, oh, here's everything you want to know, things like that. So there's definitely, there's power in that. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to use I'm a big Jazz fan. So to use a basketball team example, you want to make sure, and this one comes from, I always like to give credit where my ideas come from. I have a few really good original ideas, but those are few and far between. Most of the time, I just regurgitate other successful people. So this one comes from Keller Williams. You always want to make sure that you're building a bench. When the starting point guard needs to take a break, sits down, gets injured or whatever, the backup point guard comes in, not the coach. I will build out my org chart and say, okay, well, I'm going to write the name of who's the bench for all of these roles. And if they're named Jason, I know that there's some things I need to fix, right? Yeah. And so one of my goals from when I was small is to build a company big enough to be able to afford enough staff to have a bench in everything. So your acquisition manager quits, who's the other acquisition manager? Right now I have two. If one quits, the other one can cover while I get one hired, and I'm still not going to appointments.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great, we could discuss this in a lot more detail, but I think the key is, and we talk about this all the time in Investor Fuel. I talk about this all the time. There's so many people that are real estate investors. I've done coaching, like all these things over the years. So many people are just, they operate at a small level to where, maybe you made $100,000 a year in your job, you left your job, and now you're making, 2 or 3 times that, but you still have a job. Because, when you're that small, you just can't afford redundancy. And so the case for running a real business is to scale up to the point to where you can have multiple people, cross-train people and stuff, so that you don't, like, back to your analogy of a basketball team, the coach never gets pulled in to be a player. Somebody else has to step in, and you have to have people trained for that, right?
Yeah. Travis, who used to work with us, who was in the military, used to always say it this way. In the military, they would always say, without redundancy, you're dead. There's only one guy on the plane that knows how to fly the plane, and he gets shot, the plane goes down, right? Yeah. You got to make sure there's at least one other person on that plane that knows how to do it. Most importantly, and second most importantly, ideally that person shouldn't be named currently sitting in the company owner role. Otherwise, you're constantly going to be living in this, hey, I've got the team built. This is good. This is exciting. And I'm back on the ground floor. Oh, I've got to be, and I'm back on the ground floor.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this many times. You don't want to be one person leaving or getting fired or getting hit by a truck away from having to get pulled back into a day-to-day operational role.
Right. I mean, we're living right now in the time period called the Great Resignation. If you're banking on no one leaving you, that's not good.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. Let's continue on with the team stuff.
Okay. So I will say you don't have to have a huge organization to make that happen either. I mean, I remember seeing something from Dan Schwartz, the guy behind Investor Fuel's, that he called it the essential 4-person wholesaling team. You can have, a lead manager, an acquisition manager, a disposition manager, and an office manager. Do some cross training between them, and with 4 A players, you can run a pretty good sized company and do a decent number of deals.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying you have to go build a huge organization, but you want to make sure that there's cross training and that it's not done. Yeah, do it once so you never have to do it again. That was kind of my main team building thoughts I wanted to share on this one.
Yeah, awesome. So, a couple of the messages I wanted to share on this show are just the power of getting in the right room. So those of you that are watching this right now know that I also run Investor Fuel, our mastermind. That's where Jason and I met at. But at the time, who would have known? And there's other people in the group too that I've, partnered with, or like Corey Peterson, we do a lot of multifamily deals together. And you just never know who you're going to meet in a room. There's a whole bunch of Investor Fuel that have found kind of new best friends. Their families travel together. They do deals together. They found ways to work together. They lend to one another, whatever it might be, lots of opportunities to work together if you get yourself in the right room. So I guess a little plug for Investor Fuel there. But the other thing I want to talk about, which I think you guys will get a lot of value from, is kind of what we're doing at Investor.
Oh, can I add to the Investor Fuel thing?
Yeah.
So I love Investor Fuel. One thing that I've got a shirt that says Fuel Family, and it is definitely like a family. There's nowhere that I go that I ever feel more understood than there. It's funny. I'll go out with friends, people from church congregation, neighbors, family, things like that. No one gets me, right? We'll talk about sports. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about whatever. But when I'm at Fuel, I'm home. I'm with my people. All of my closest, in terms of my closest friends are in the masterminds that I'm in, for sure. And so in terms of enjoyment, fulfillment, as well as, I have all sorts of different relationships, and a huge part of my growth came from Fuel and masterminds and the connections that you make and things like that. I'm a big fan, big believer of the power of masterminds, for sure.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much power in just getting around people that think like you, right? I mean, we talk about,
and it's refreshing, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People talks about sharpening the saw. There's very little that I do. And I'm an introvert. So I get a mix of saw sharpening, but also a lot of people. And I will say that's worse earlier on in the masterminds. Once I'm in and familiar with the group, I don't get that same degree of draining, but I totally leave with the saw so much sharper after I leave a mastermind.
Yeah. When you're an entrepreneur, you just have, and your business is to a certain point to where you're not worried about paying the bills and stuff anymore, right? You're kind of financially free. It's hard to have conversations with people. I just get an example like that you gave, a similar one to that is we have some friends in the neighborhood, like other families that have kids around the same age as my son. We got to get together, and it's happened before where I'm like, they're like, oh, what's going on? And we're like, oh, we just got back from this place. And they're like, can you guys get together in a couple of weeks? I'm like, oh, we're going to be in Cabo. Or it's like, wait, you just got back from vacation. You're going on another vacation. And it's like, well, this is why I've worked hard to do what I do, is to live the life that I want. And the problem is it starts to sound like you're bragging, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying what I do. And when you start to feel like you can't talk about what you do with people that are around you, it's kind of stifling, right? You're just like,
it is. And I'm exceptionally private in my own life too.
Yeah.
With it. I'll share kind of a funny one with this that just happened this week. So, in my wife's family, I'm private in my personal life. And all of my wife's family lives in Utah, and no one in my wife's family, as far as I know, I'm a realtor, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm in real
exactly.
estate, right? And what's funny is that her sister, who's a nurse practitioner, was doing does consistent treatments with my title officer, who knows everything I do, and she's like, I'm getting bored with this. I think I may want to get into real estate, right? And my title, so she's asking her some questions and everything else. And my title officer finally says, why are you asking me this? Literally, the guy that is the best in Utah at this is your brother-in-law. Why wouldn't you ask him? And she was like,
The
Jason?
realtor? The realtor?
Like, he is? And so all of a sudden she's calling me like all of a sudden, interested in everything else. It was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So again, nothing bad about anybody involved in that. It's just I'm private in
Yeah.
my personal life.
Yeah. But the point is, even if you're not, it's hard to have those, you can't talk about what you do and who you are and what you aspire to do. Cause it sounds, I'm not saying anything bad about, obviously most people have a W-2 job, but if you have a regular job and you're not thinking way bigger than that, then those conversations are kind of hard to have and they just feel unnatural, right? So if you're around other entrepreneurs, that conversation inspires each other to think bigger
Right.
and push to the next level.
For sure.
Yeah. So awesome. So Jason and I met at Investor Fuel and started talking about really right off the bat. I wish I could remember the exact first conversation we had, but it was around, kind of done for you lead generation or doing it as a service. And Jason was doing a little bit of it. I kind of came from a background of doing that type of stuff, franchising and growing, coaching and all that stuff, but I didn't want to do the agency side because I knew it came with a lot of headaches. When you're an agency, a lot of times your customers that might be happy tend to just complain about what it is that you're doing for them because they're hoping it will get better. And in this business, we tend to be feast or famine. And so for one reason or another, Jason was doing it for a couple people. Now we do it for hundreds of people in hundreds of markets around the country. And I think just together, our skill sets and the accountability and the back to the thinking big stuff allowed us to build something really amazing here over the past, 2 years. So Investor Machine has really blown up, but I don't want to just pat ourselves in the back here. I want to talk to you guys about the future of kind of real estate investing and the importance of having really better data and being more kind of precision like than in the past. Because when I first started in real estate investing in 2007, 2008, almost anybody could be successful, even when the market was falling. There were a lot of people that were failing. Usually that was from bad decisions they made with overpaying or using cheap debt or whatever. People were still pretty much operating like throwing spaghetti at the wall. You almost couldn't lose money in the business unless you made bad financial decisions, not necessarily operational decisions, but operationally, you just can't operate at that level anymore.
Got
And
much
so,
harder.
yeah. And I think, a part of the opportunity that still exists today and had existed in a different way back then was a very much information was very fragmented. Nobody was talking about data. They were just like blasting and shotgunning everything everywhere. And knowing that if you got a deal, it would be so profitable that you could offset the fact that you weren't very precise. And that's just not the case anymore, and definitely not where we're going. You'd agree with that, right, Jason?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, early on, I made uh, every mistake there was to make in mail lists, marketing, et cetera, and it still worked.
Yeah.
That's not still true today.
Right. And I think the market is, sellers have wised up too that, sometimes you can just, when the retail market is hot, you can just list your house sometimes and sell it. And for people that aren't in a big hurry, right? And so the key is to really find the people that are the most distressed and try to find them before anyone else. And that's where the difference is. So it's obviously a competitive marketplace. There are no silver bullets, including what we do at Investor Machine. But maybe we can kind of dive into what we do with data, Jason, that's kind of unique to really what anybody else is offering today.
Yeah. So what we do at Investor Machine is we score two things. We score the property and we score the seller. So for the property, we look at every different aspect of a property, from the zip code, years owned, years built, LTV, Sorry, 10 other different things.
As we said, Jason's dealing with kind of COVID right now, and a little foggy, but
Little
yeah,
funny.
we look at like
10 other different things. We score each of those on a scale of 1 to 5. So rather than just saying, I don't want anything newer than 2000, it's, it's, which is what you do at List Source. You can look at every different aspect of a property, compare them all against each other. And what you get in the end is a list from the property that best fits your ideal to furthest away from your ideal. So ideal being 1,600 square foot, 3-bed, 2-bath, ideal zip code, owned 50 years, owned outright, same seller, owned in a trust, all of the above. To worst house being a brand new build, $10 million home, and then everywhere in between.
right.
Then we score the seller. That's where the virtual assistants come in. We get an actual login to the county, and we go pull every motivation point that we can find manually. And we run those two through our algorithm, and what it creates is best property best seller, worst property least seller, and then we then go and market to those. We'll provide you a skip trace list, and that's the list that we will then go take and mail for you. And we really worked on becoming like the best at lists and the best at mail in those two things. And we've got a bunch of things that we do in both of those things that are definitely higher level. Like even with like mail, because we know what motivation points they have, we have a section in there that says we specialize in these situations, and the situations that we specialize in happen to be what they're going through. So they're going through a divorce, we specialize in divorce. They're going through notice of default, we specialize in helping people save foreclosure, and we can do that across everybody. You're mailing 10,000 people, they all get their own unique postcard based on what they are going through.
Yep. And the lesson here is for those of you that are listening right now that do some of this yourself or want to do this yourself, you can do this yourself. It's just a lot of work. And so I think historically, and I've always known people that go down to the county courthouse and pull probates or do that, which is honestly brain damaged if you have to do it yourself. The difference is we're going after about 40 different lists. And, there are some great tools out there. Batch Lead Stacker is one of them where you can put the data in that you've pulled and stack them up. And a couple of the main differences are, one, it's you doing it yourself. You still have to go pull the list and the data. I think where we're a little bit unique is that we're pulling, we're obviously doing it for you, and then way more lists, but we don't treat all the lists equally. Like a probate has a higher value than a mowing lien does per se. And we take into account the kind of shelf life of that data point. So if it's a probate, it has a longer shelf life than a divorce might. So over time, the points are diminishing and that data point becomes less important over time. Right. And we're pulling this data on a daily and weekly basis and keeping it all fresh so that we're absolutely helping our customers market to the best, newest data right now instead of, and we've probably all seen it. Maybe some of you guys are guilty from it. You're mailing a list that you don't even know where you got that list anymore. And I'm just telling you, that is going to crush your business. It hasn't already.
Or it's more than it used to be for me. I'd pull a list and I'd mail that thing for a year, right? Yeah. And at the end of the year, half of it was coming back as return mail.
Yeah, because they sold, right? And so we know real time almost if a house is sold, if they've asked to be removed from the list. We're getting that information back from the post office. Like we know all that stuff and we cut out all the waste. And so the cost that it costs to work with us probably very easily offsets the waste that you would do by doing it yourself. So it's almost like, I used to say, it's almost like celery. It's got like negative calories. You burn more calories chewing it than the celery even had.
Right.
But we do that as a service for a lot of the top investors across the country. If you guys are interested, not to be like overly pitchy here, but if you're interested, just go to theinvestormachine.com and you can schedule a call and learn more about that. And honestly, a lot of the larger markets around the country are filling up now. So we have.
That's true. That's happening more. But we're at what? 125, 130.
A little more than that now. Yeah.
Yeah. And markets full everywhere.
Yep. So what are some other things for just kind of lessons learned, Jason, on, I think people need to get way more data driven going forward. That's just where the industry is going. And what are some other things that they should look out for as they're kind of going like future of the industry stuff?
Yeah. I agree. You've got to be more data oriented. You got to be able to, differentiate yourself and look like a mom and pop type business. I mean, obviously we have iBuyers, which are continuing to grow and increase in market share and not scared to lose billions of dollars. And so you need kind of some of the same advantages that they have, which is a lot of the data that they have from a combined big effort in terms of what works marketing wise, what places they should send to, etc. But still while keeping that local, because oftentimes people would just rather work with, that local person rather than the national type of brand.
Right.
So I think that's a big part of it with your marketing for sure. And I mean, just be authentic, be real, be ethical, and people will feel that.
Yep. Yep. So some of the key takeaways here are we talked about kind of the team structure. So scaling your business up to where you have the ability to start to pull yourself out and do what exactly you got in the business for. It was probably to have freedom. First, that starts with financial freedom. And then I can tell you, no matter how much money you make, what you really want is more of your time, more flexibility in how you spend your days and things like that. So the next step is to buy that time back by building a team, right? And so for those of you that are listening, that are operating and doing a couple deals here and there, that's still a job, right? So the key is to spend enough on advertising and lead generation to grow your business to the point to where you can buy back your own time. That happens by having that mindset. It really happens by really two other major things: getting around the right people, which is what we do at Investor Fuel, and kind of learning what's working and what's working for this person. Everybody is very open and sharing. I mean, Jason's a huge giver. There's a ton of people in the group that are huge givers and just don't hold back on whatever is working for them. And so you're able to kind of be surrounded by people that are doing what you want to do, right?
For sure.
And then the second thing is operating at the level from a lead generation perspective. What fuels this entire thing is lead gen. I mean, lead gen. And if you're not generating enough leads, then you're not having enough opportunities to get in front of sellers. You're not having enough opportunities to make offers, and you're not getting enough deals to fuel the whole thing, which is the revenue you need from that to kind of feed the monster, if you will.
Right.
Yep. Yep. So if you guys are listening to this and you've resonated at all with this, we'd love to talk to you about Investor Fuel. You can go to investorfuel.com and learn more. Investor Machine, theinvestormachine.com. You can learn more. And Jason, if folks wanted to learn more about you or follow along with what you're doing, how would they connect? Just on Facebook or?
Facebook is typically my best. Yep.
Yeah.
And would love to connect. Happy to help anyone wherever I can.
Awesome. We'll add a link down below for how to connect to Jason to his profile. I'll add a link where you can follow me. I'm at the friend limit, but you can still follow me and kind of see all my posts, and we can interact that way. So appreciate you guys a ton. Kind of future of Flip Nerd. I will tell you, this is on the Flip Nerd show. We also have the Investor Fuel podcast. We have over 1,500 video podcasts that we've done over the last 8 years at this point. In fact, for Flip Nerd, here right around Christmas time will be the 8-year anniversary of the first show. It's kind of hard to believe that it's been that long. I will be totally honest with you guys on the Flip Nerd side that we've gotten a little lax with putting out new episodes, and I think that'll start to change. There's actually a couple of new hosts that are going to start joining here over the next couple months and actually hosting shows. So you'll start to see some of my friends host shows as well. So we'll keep some great content coming your way. So Jason, hey, thanks for seeing you, my friend. You and I talk almost every day anyway, but so glad to have you here.
Yeah, grateful to be here. Thanks, Mike.
Hope you start feeling better. Everybody, appreciate you following along today. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show. Thanks for listening to today's show. There are 3 ways I can help you start or grow your real estate investing business. If you're a new investor and just getting started, the Flip Nerd Investor Coaching Program is the most effective program in America. I've been coaching and mentoring new real estate investors for 10 years, and my students have literally purchased thousands and thousands of properties. Many of them started with little to no experience at all. Our program is a paint-by-numbers program where we tell you exactly what to do week by week to make sure that you don't get distracted on your way to results. We show you how to build a real business, not just create another job for yourself. New memberships are limited. You can learn more and apply or schedule a call with me and my team at flipnerd.com/coaching. If you're an experienced investor doing a minimum of 10 deals a year, up to 500 deals a year or more, or have a multi-million-dollar real estate portfolio already, you should check out our powerful Investor Fuel Real Estate Investor Mastermind. Over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors are members, and it's not uncommon for our members to 2 to 5x their business just from getting around other members at Investor Fuel. At Investor Fuel, each of us are business advisors to one another's businesses, but we don't stop at business. We focus heavily on becoming better people and living fuller lives. If you're looking for fuel for your business or fuel for your life, please check out investorfuel.com. Applications and interviews are required, as most investors are not a fit for our community. Please learn more at investorfuel.com. If you're not ready for coaching or masterminds but eager to start learning more about investing, please join our private Facebook group by visiting flipnerd.com/Facebook. New members get access to free training from us right here at flipnerd.com, and it's a community to safely ask your questions, a great place to get started. Simply go to flipnerd.com/Facebook to request your access today.